I have a question about the briefing, sir. Sir? Great. Glad you're listening. Now, why does it say the package is located somewhere in, what was formerly New York? Is that like a joke or something? Hey, Mr. Diesel Engine, can you at least tell me how long the flight's gonna be? Why is it so hard to get any answers around here? Right, management says I gotta be careful about strong profanity on YouTube. Wait, I'm not even monetized. Why should I worry? Okay, everyone, looks like we're gonna be here a while. So if you don't mind, I'm just gonna sit back, relax, and ramble on about a game that I've gotten into recently, ready or not. Now you'll notice that this video isn't a should you play, despite it being a newer game. Well, I've been informed by Mr. Tin Man over here that early access games aren't eligible for episodes of Should You Play. He says the administrator wants our reviews to be as up-to-date as possible. Otherwise, I might trash an early access game only for it to be updated and fixed in the future, or give a glowing review to one that, 24 hours later, gets an update where all the files have been replaced with images of Goatsy. Something to that effect anyway. So this is going to be an early access impressions video. Very cool, very exciting, I know. And as such, it's not going to be as structured as my other videos. So bear with me as I quickly jump from one topic to another, and then bounce back, and forth, and back, and forth, and back. Okay, I'm out of material, just roll the intro.
Suspects have taken refuge in the area and are refusing to cooperate. Move in, remember your ROE, and secure the area.
What is the purpose of a non-gameplay trailer? Ooh, beginning with a question, how bold. Looks like we're video essayists now, my dudes. Time to collectively stroke our chins and discuss the anti-capitalist themes of Frogger. Only kidding, but seriously. It was something I was thinking about while rewatching the reveal trailer for Ready or Not in preparation for this video. I want to touch on it briefly since it's how I got interested in the game, and I think it's an excellent example of a non-gameplay trailer done well. In fact, it may be one of the only times a non-gameplay trailer has made me excited for a game, because it's not a short teaser with disconnected scenery leading up to a title drop, nor is it a dishonest fabrication of the gameplay. Instead, it's a striking showcase of the game's mood and tone, which I'd argue is what a non-gameplay trailer should be. This caught my attention because of how different it was from the typical military FPS trailer. Instead of an explosive montage featuring gunfire in sync with the background music, what we got was a slow, atmospheric trailer depicting dark, distressing situations. A SWAT officer checking the pulse of a slumped-over child, a crate cracked open to reveal emaciated victims of human trafficking. I remember my first thoughts being, this looks disturbing and uncomfortable. So when's it coming out? I've always been fascinated by controversial games, historical or otherwise. A game that swings so wildly for the fences, good or bad, will always be more interesting to talk about than a middle-of-the-road one. Take Agony, for example. It's a giant pile of shit, but I still talk about it every now and then, which is more than I could say about games like Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. That being said, my hope at the time was that Ready or Not wouldn't end up being a non-stop barrage of edgy imagery, to the point where it becomes dull or worse, exploitative. Either way, it was certainly a provocative trailer, and the game could have been a dating sim and I still would have played it. That's how effective it was. But enough about the trailer. Just what the hell type of game is Ready or Not anyway? Well, if you've scrolled through the Steam reviews, you'll have no doubt seen the same statement made by thousands of users. It's SWAT 5. Now, if you're confused as to whether that's referring to a new type of SWAT unit that breaks into your house and shoots your cat as well as your dog, let me clear that up for you. SWAT, originally titled Police Quest, was a decently well-known series of police-themed games. The first few, believe it or not, were point-and-click adventure games. It wasn't until SWAT 3 that the series became a first-person tactical shooter, and also when the Police Quest title was dropped. Reading that, I skipped the Police Quest games and played through SWATs 3 and 4, along with its expansion. And now having played them, I can safely make two statements. 1. SWAT 3 has one of the worst sewer levels in the game. Like seriously, it's a combination of every bad sewer level cliche you can think of. Narrow passages, samey environments, the list goes on. And look at how awful the flashlight is. Granted, nobody knew how to do flashlights in the 90s, including Half-Life. But still, I can't think of the last time I hated a sewer level this much. I could make an entire video on why this level sucks, and, oh right, the other thing. And 2, yes, Ready or Not is basically SWAT 5. Sure, there are some differences in various quality of life improvements, including new game modes like Raid and Bomb Defusal, but the staple game mode, Barricaded Suspects, is pretty much the same. You and 4 squad mates must adhere to strict rules of engagement as you make your way through mostly close quarters maps. You customize loadouts in between missions, order your squad around, breach and clear rooms, gather evidence, apprehend or kill the suspects if they attack you, and apprehend or kill the civilians if they— Wait, hang on, editor, cut this part out. But that's fine. Frankly, I'm impressed with how well Ready or Not has translated the slow, methodical gameplay of the SWAT series into the modern era, complete with a retooled control scheme that hits a nice balance between the simple controls of a more action-heavy FPS and the dizzying control scheme of a milsim like Arma. You can lean, lower your weapon, turn your attachment on and off, aim down the canted sights, check how much ammo is left in your mag, and move your head independently from your body. All of this you can do, or easily rebind, without having to attend a college course on the controls, which is the reason I bounce off most milsims. Controlling your squad is just as straightforward. A small menu is brought up when you press the middle mouse button. From here, you can command your squad to stack up, use the wand to mirror under the door for traps and suspects, which is vital, especially on missions like Brissa Cove. Lastly, but most importantly, you can order them to breach the door, whether by shooting the lock off with a shotgun then kicking it open, planting and detonating a C2 charge, or just picking the lock and opening the door quietly if you're the type of fellow that prefers the stealthy approach.
Doors unlocked.
Speaking of stealth, one of the first things you should do is rebind the Yell for Compliance key. By default, it's the same key as Interact, so unless you want to accidentally scream at a door to put its non-existent hands up and give away your position, rebind it immediately. Would have been nice if you could do that in SWAT 4, but hey, it was 2005. But as much as I love how faithful it is to its inspirations, I wish they had reworked what is easily the worst part, the cleanup. You know, scouring the map after the action's over looking for weapons and spending 30 minutes looking for that one civilian who ran off to God knows where. I understand they want to make players work for that S ranking, but when the tasks are this tedious, it kills any incentive to do so. Makes me feel less like a SWAT officer and more like a janitor or a Ubisoft protagonist, but I repeat myself. Half the time, my squad and I just ended the mission early because none of us felt like running around in circles looking for a misplaced gun or chasing down a civilian who bolted off to a random corner of the map.
Alright, I'm not gonna search down more guns or suspects, let's just call it in. Alright, just page up, since we're not gonna fuck. I'm gonna page up. I'm not going for search around for weapons and shit.
We did not arrest 3 suspects, but that is okay. Not a victory.
I don't know how the hell they expect you to arrest 3 suspects.
I consider that a victory.
No cap.
Now imagine how bad this is in single player when you're dragging around the bots. You know what would be nice, at least in single player? A command for the bots to spread out and search for civilians and weapons, unlocked after the last suspect is killed or secured. Okay, genius. Now what would be the point of the grading system if you could just send them off to do all the work for you? A fair question. So how about this? You know how in SWAT 4 there's that text that constantly updates you on the status of your squad? Maybe, instead of them going around and picking up weapons and securing civilians, they sweep the area and give you status updates like weapon in East Hall or civilian in dining area. This will encourage players to learn and understand the maps in order to earn those sweet S ranks. Obviously, it's not a perfect fix, but something's gotta change, especially since we might be getting larger maps in the future, which will only worsen the problem.
Like your team's dead, so you can go through there.
Hold, I'm gonna bang.
Right.
Oh, we did it.
Never mind.
We'll return to the gameplay in a bit, but first, let's go back to that discussion on mood, tone, and content. In this regard, Ready or Not is definitely closer in spirit to SWAT 4 than 3. Closer in spiritual successor, you might say. What I mean is this. SWAT 3's tone is reminiscent of action movies like Clear and Present Danger and Executive Decision. This is seen in the bright color scheme and the mission objectives. There's an exciting one where you have to race against time to disable SAM turrets before they shoot down the Russian president's plane. And in another, you have to stop sovereign citizens from detonating what may or may not be a nuke. It goes big and fully embraces its action movie inspirations, and the soundtrack complements this. Here's a track from SWAT 3. Okay, now here's a track from SWAT 4. Very funny. Now stop playing music from Outlast and play an actual track from SWAT 4. Well, my dear viewer, that was a track from SWAT 4. To rub that point in, here's another one. Oh, and did I mention the second mission in the game has you investigating the home of a serial killer?
TOC, this is entry team. We found an unidentified female victim in need of medical assistance.
Roger. Notifying EMTs. Keep us informed.
TOC, this is entry team. Injured civilian ready for evac.
Copy. EMTs standing by.
Uh-huh. Definitely not gonna be having nightmares about any of this. SWAT 4 is such an alarming shift in tone that it's hard to believe it's part of the same series. And as someone who greatly values atmosphere in games, I absolutely love it. It's a horror game wearing the clothes of a tactical shooter, and you can't convince me otherwise. While not every mission is as eerie as Fairfax Residence, that same feeling of dread is still felt throughout the entire game, and is heightened by the dark, seedy nature of its locations. Look at this level. It's set in a car shop and it's about as brightly lit as Doom 3. Ready or Not is certainly more varied with the lighting in its missions, with several taking place in broad daylight, a prime example being the Postal Service level. But many of its missions are set in dimly lit interiors or under the cover of darkness. This is where SWAT 4's influence starts to become obvious, along with the impressive attention to background details. And like Randy Pitchford's greasy hair on fire if this doesn't have some of the more atmospheric levels I've played in a while. Do people still laugh at greasy Pitchford jokes? This is where Ready or Not succeeds with flying colors, and like SWAT 4, the environments are just as intimidating as the suspects who inhabit them. And what better example to start with than Twisted Nerve, a mission where you have to clear out a... I don't want to risk this video getting pulled, so let's just call it a fun dip den. It's one of the more tense missions in the game, not just because of the erratic behavior of the suspects, but also because of the building's decrepit nature. The rooms are grimy, cluttered, and claustrophobic. You're constantly on edge as you search each room, checking every nook and cranny, as the suspects will occasionally hide under beds and in closets. Even with a squad of 5 players, or 10, but let's save that for later, it maintains its nerve-wracking atmosphere, and the confused reactions from your teammates add to the tension.
Stand by.
Okay, we cleared this already.
Ready?
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
Alright, breach,
Oh,
breach.
what the?
Where?
Alright, make entry.
Oh, outside. I got it.
Stairs above us.
Mission failed. We no longer have control of the situation.
Ran up
Fall
to shake
back.
me. Yeah, maybe not the best mission to dive into if you're new to the game. So here's a good one to start with. A Lethal Obsession, which looks like it's set in the Baker's home from Resident Evil 7. Now all the Ready or Not players are raising their eyebrows. But here's my reasoning. It's a short mission, easily beaten in 5 minutes or less, with only 2 suspects roaming around. And it helps acquaint you with the close quarters nature of the game. Oh, and it drills into your head that you need to check for traps. Seriously, your teammates will greatly appreciate it when you eventually play Brissa Cove. And if you're one of those people who likes strong world building and atmosphere, you'll find a lot to appreciate here. But the greatest showcase of Ready or Not's atmosphere is the Neon Tomb, a mission set in a nightclub. Nightclubs and games often serve as flashy backdrops for short, action-packed set pieces where you gun down enemies while loud electronic music plays in the background.
Peel left! Peel left! Moving!
Remember when Skrillex was in everything? Those were dark times. The Neon Tomb doesn't play like this. Not even remotely. It's a slow, disturbing crawl through neon-drenched halls, bars, and misty pool areas. The erotic imagery, strobe lights, and pulsating club music sharply contrast the gruesome aftermath of the terrorist attack. You'll find bodies littering the floor as you inch through the halls with your squad. And when you arrive at the main dance floor, well, don't expect to see John Travolta tearing it up.
Talk to element. Roger that. Trailers incoming. Proceed with caution.
But it's also those little moments in between that make the Neon Tomb such an effectively distressing mission, like turning a corner and finding a panicked civilian with a bomb strapped to their waist or hearing the ringing of a phone that will never be answered.
Talk to high ground. Roger. Trailers inbound.
Well, I think that's a good enough segue into discussing how Ready or Not handles its more provocative topics. You literally just talked about a mission involving a terrorist attack on a nightclub. Yeah, but I was focusing on sounds like you were discussing a provocative topic to me. Okay, smartass, then let me make it clear. I am now going to be talking specifically about how the game handles its provocative topics. And here's a sign to prove it. A huge, bright sign that takes up most of the screen. Are we good? Great, then let's get into it. So the question that's loomed over this entire video is whether the game goes to the same dark places as its reveal trailer. The short answer is yes, but we're here to elaborate, so let's do that. It does, and it exercises an admirable level of restraint in how it depicts and paces its disturbing material. This is what separates it from something like Hatred. That game is so edgy, so frantic and over the top with its depictions of mayhem and depravity, that it becomes funny, which was certainly not the intention. It wanted to be the next Postal, 1, not 2, and became a laughingstock, widely mocked for how ineffective its attempts at tastelessness were.
This is the time of vengeance, and no life is worth saving. And I will put in the grave as many as I can. It's time for me to kill, and it's time for me to die.
Ready or Not isn't trying to be tasteless, let's be clear. But when dabbling with topics like human trafficking, it could easily have become that. But how you depict something is just as important as what you're depicting. And while Ready or Not isn't afraid to throw you into some ugly scenarios, it's also careful not to overwhelm you with them. One of the beginner-friendly missions is a gas station robbery, and another has you investigating a postal facility that's smuggling weapons for a gang. Pretty standard stuff for a police game. I could imagine someone who hasn't seen the trailer playing these and expecting that for the rest of the game, and I would love to see that same person's reaction when they first load up a mission like Valley of the Dolls. Not to be confused with the Roger Ebert film Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. That would provoke a different reaction. But I highlight this one in particular because, I'd argue, it's the most disturbing mission in the game. A statement that may leave you scratching your head as you watch the background footage with me and my squad clearing out a rich person's home in broad daylight. But the devil lies in the details, my dudes. Well, what's your objective? We're here to arrest Amos Vole, who has been profiting from the distribution of, let's call it, for the sake of YouTube, COD points. COD points? I don't get— Oh! Yeah, light topic. What follows is a deeply uncomfortable descent into degeneracy, heightened by environmental storytelling that would make an immersive sim like Dishonored jealous, and an ending so sickening I'm wondering how much of it I can show on YouTube. But it's everything leading up to that ending that makes it that much more disturbing. It's the notes between Amos and his daughter Janie, which give off a very creepy vibe after everything we've seen in and around the house. And in the basement. Now let's get the fuck out of here and pull in aliens by nuking this place from orbit. And nuke it again just to be sure. Actually, do we have another one left over? Holy shit, this ending rattled me the first time I played it. But the pacing of the mission is what makes it work. It most certainly wouldn't have had that same impact if we had breached in and immediately found, let's call it, the horrible dungeon where all the illegal stuff happens.png. It would have felt exploitative, vindicating my concerns from the reveal trailer. But it's that careful buildup of tension, that slow ramp-up of unsettling imagery, those little notes and other details that add an earned, crushing weight to the proceedings. A reminder, at the risk of sounding pretentious, that lives have and will be affected by what's transpired here, that this terrible event isn't happening in a vacuum. See, you need some humanity to make your disturbing content, you know, disturbing. It goes back to that endlessly ringing phone in the neon tomb. Such a small detail, yet it puts the mission in a broader context, extending the tragedy beyond the club itself. Whoever's on the other end of that phone probably saw the attack on the news and just wants to make sure their friend isn't dead. And that, right there, is what hatred is missing: context and humanity. My hope is that wherever Ready or Not decides to go next, it remembers these crucial elements. I'll be very disappointed if it turns into another piece of media abusing shocking topics for the sake of it, especially given the subject matter. On you, Jason.
Roger that.
What I am disappointed by is how lifeless your squad mates are. We'll move on to the multiplayer, mods, and some extra thoughts on the gameplay after this, don't worry. The common complaint is that they're unresponsive, which is true, and the single player suffers greatly from this. While I could join in on the rabble, everyone's beaten this topic to death, and the developers have repeatedly stated they're fixing it. So I'll just show a couple of clips as proof and leave it at that.
Make them secure. Make them secure. Restrain targets.
Move in and clear it.
On the move.
Move and clear.
All right, moving up.
My big issue is that they have no personality, and just feel like Roombas with guns. By comparison, your squad mates in SWAT 4 actually have character.
I don't feel good about this, not one bit.
They aren't super chatty or anything like that, but they'll occasionally comment on what's happening in the mission. I like it. It gives them some humanity, and enhances the game's darker moments.
This is one sick bastard. I don't want to know what's on those tapes.
A moment that stands out is in The Children of Tyrone, a mission where you clear out an apartment complex infested with violent cultists. Naturally, they're hiding something f***ed up in the basement. That seems to be the running theme here.
Talk, we found a graveyard in the basement. Looks like it's their children.
Copy that. Entry team notifying the morgue.
Mother of God. Those graves. They're just children.
Listen to that. Talk sounds unsettled after hearing your report, and the horrified commentary from your squad mate as you leave the room adds to what's already such a disturbing moment. Now here's how your Ready or Not squad mates react to that scene from Valley of the Dolls. Am I making a big deal out of something that most players won't care about? Well, yeah, but welcome to this channel. Also, subscribe. But really, it's just another factor that makes the single player inferior to co-op. If there's one good thing I could say about the friendly AI, it's this. At least they won't sometimes repeatedly say, "Move over, boss," while you're spawning into a level.
Move over, boss. Units responding to CP at base of Mount Threshold
You're in my
Avenue.
spot.
Barricade hostage situation.
Move over, boss. Get out of the way.
I guess you could argue it's preferable to public matchmaking, but that goes without saying. Playing the original port of Dark Souls unmodded with an unresponsive controller while someone is bombing their stand-up routine in the background would still be preferable to queuing into a public lobby for a tactical shooter. So grab a few friends, because this game excels in co-op. I know that's not much of a recommendation, because really, any game can be fun when played in co-op. Just look at Resident Evil 6.
There is one civilian right behind this door.
Okay, that was a close call.
Yeah.
You were about to blow this poor bellhop's eardrums completely out of his head.
That being said, it is abundantly clear that Ready or Not was designed with co-op in mind, and the fun lies in experimenting with different weapons, gear, and approaches together. For example, why not go full Zero Dark 30 by donning NVGs and strapping IR lasers to your weapons? Certainly makes missions like Port Hoken and the car dealership easier, and it's pretty much a requirement on Twisted Nerve unless you like getting jump scared by fun dip enthusiasts. Or why not try the less than lethal weapons and then instantly return to the lobby because the less than lethal weapons are shit and only viable in maybe 1 or 2 missions? It's a shame, because while it made the game harder, the less than lethal weapons in SWAT 4 could be used in every mission, and there was also an incentive to use them. You want to get a perfect score on a mission? Put away that assault rifle and take this paintball gun and taser. Okay, have fun now. I've seen people say it's the same in Ready or Not. Really? Maybe it's buggy right now, but there were a couple of missions where I killed at least 1 or 2 suspects, with authorized force, to be clear, and still got an S rank. It's stuff like this that makes me understand why so many players forego the less than lethal approach. Why tie yourself down with a couple of shitty weapons you can barely customize when you could be flying through the map with your tactical loadout and still have a chance of finishing with the same grade? On a similar topic, it also feels completely random when the suspect will actually drop their weapon and surrender. Look at this. I get the drop on this guy, give him a poke in the stomach while telling him to put his hands up, and he still shoots at me.
Drop it now! Screw you! Somebody ran! Drop it!
Backseat developer moment, but if I get the drop on a suspect like this while sticking, say, a shotgun in their back, there should be a greater chance of surrender. This could also apply if you're surrounding a lone suspect with 4 or more of your teammates. If I'm being honest, yelling for compliance most of the time feels like a formality you do so you don't get penalized before unloading into the suspect. And that's not exactly bringing order to chaos, that's just bringing heavily scrutinized chaos to chaos.
Crisscross.
Gun! Okay, good shit, good shit.
Alright, cool.
Woo boy, that's a lot of entitled complaining. So let's go back to the positives, one of the biggest being mod support. This, in my opinion, is what makes Ready or Not worth picking up at full price. And some of the mods have features I would love to see in the full game at some point. Here's one for starters. So there you are, in Discord, playing Ready or Not with 4 of your tactical shooter enthusiasts, when suddenly 5 more friends pop in and ask to join your game. But unfortunately, Ready or Not only supports up to 5 players by default. Oh, woe is you. But fear not, for a mod exists that allows you to double the lobby size, for a game that's designed around 5 players. Have you guys been in a 10-person lobby before? So I know I just made that comment about the game being designed with 5 players in mind, but you'd be surprised how many of these maps play just as well with 10. You want a good one to test this on? Try the hospital map, which as of writing, is the largest map in the game. But before you storm in with your 10-man goon squad and violate that sacred ROE, it might first be a good idea to split into squads of 5 and establish a leader and code name for each, like Alpha and Bravo if you're basic, or Viper and Al if you're extra. Viper, hold this position. Al, push up. Hey, I never said I wasn't extra. Honestly, a lot of the enjoyment I got out of this game was with these 10-man lobbies. Splitting into 2 teams while clearing out the larger, more labyrinthine maps proved a welcome challenge, as clear, effective communication was required in order to avoid any friendly fire incidents. If more large maps are in this game's future, then I would love to see some that are designed with 10 players in mind. Maybe as you're loading into the level, a small menu appears with the available squads, and after joining a squad, a blue or red nameplate appears on your character, like the ones in SWAT 4. There's a lot of potential here.
This is the super big room.
Yes, so you need to watch
so if you pull up the map on the middle one, Super A Club first floor, it's the VIP dance room. We're currently in the VIP bar.
I also had a great time experimenting with the community maps, with Super A Club and Into the Deep being my favorites. Super A Club plays a lot like the Neon Tomb, though the club featured here is definitely seedier. But the reason I like it is because of the extra features, like how it begins with a proper mission briefing, which made me realize how much I missed the detailed ones from SWAT 4. And during the mission, you can even pull up the map schematics, which was especially helpful when playing with bigger lobbies, making it easy for us to assign floors for each team to clear out. It's quality of life features like these that, if implemented in the base game, could go a long way in making it that much better to play. And as for Into the Deep, well, it's just a fantastically atmospheric map, boasting some grimy visuals that look like they came straight out of the Manhunt games. NVGs and IR lasers are a requirement, though you might be tempted to shut them off when you get to the last room.
I mean,
Right, we're clear.
it's not that bad. It's bad
YouTube
enough
does
for
not agree.
It's bad enough for YouTube.
Oh, and did I mention you can even play through some of the SWAT 4 levels? Yes, even Fairfax residents, but why would you want to do that? Jokes aside, it really is a testament to how faithful this game is to SWAT, because these missions play exceptionally well with Ready or Not's mechanics and gunplay. And honestly, I think that's the greatest compliment you can give this game.
Let's go.
Get in there, go.
I'm going further down.
I'm here with Jason.
And that, more or less, is Ready or Not. Alrighty, now let's answer the question. Should you play Ready or Hell? Force a habit. But how should we wrap this up? Well, let me end by saying this. Though I've brought up many concerns, some big, some small, I want to make it clear that I have confidence this will end up being a fantastic tactical shooter, and a worthy successor to the SWAT series. Unlike so many games that fly the flag riddled with bullet holes and covered in shit that is the early access label, Ready or Not actually has a strong, promising foundation to build on. The gunplay is responsive, clean, and punchy, and there's a decent depth to the customization, which I look forward to seeing expanded upon in the future. The maps are wildly different from one another, and you already have a good-sized selection to choose from. The co-op is easy to set up, stable, and mostly bug-free. I would love to see more players added in, but what we currently have is great and is still one of the more engaging co-op games I've played in a while. The community-made maps, weapon balances, and tweaks have added a considerable amount of playtime to what has become one of my go-to games. It's good to see mod support this early on in the game's lifespan, and it's great that the developers have actively encouraged it, with community posts showcasing some of the more popular mods being posted on the Steam forums. You've got a good game here, Void Interactive, and I look forward to eventually playing the full release. Good luck.
True.
Oh, something else there.
Are we done?
Damn it.
Alright.
And we're all done here. Thanks for tuning in once again. I might try a different format for the next video too, but don't worry, your regularly scheduled Old and Mostly Forgotten and Should You plays will continue afterwards. At least, that's what it says in my contract. Anyway, I'll catch you all in the next video. So much for being a supervisor. This sentient beer can has been asleep this whole flight. Do you know how much of a pain it was to edit that out of the video? I tell you, this company must really be going down the drain if they're hiring someone as lazy as—
Oh, you think I haven't been listening, you asshole?
Ah! What?
I did that just to put you off guard. See? Got a little switch right here. You should know I never sleep. In fact, I can't sleep. And that's good, because it means I get to eavesdrop on ungrateful little shits like you and report your petty outbursts to manager for some extra cash. Now how's that for a side job?
Well, at least I have a real job and am respected by my coworkers.
Uh-huh. You're so respected that you haven't gotten a raise or promotion in months. Meanwhile, I'm giving myself another big old promotion after this assignment.
Hang on, how long have you been working here?
4 months.
And you're already getting another promotion?
Uh-huh.
This is going to be a long assignment.
Yeah, boy.